I think we're all very uptight and prude, and like we don't talk about sex and pleasure and what's normal and what's not normal. And yeah, you shouldn't be particularly. We've got. I don't know if it's the same in the US, but especially because you talk to a lot of men, I'm very passionate about men's mental health. Particularly, we have a lot of relationships that look very much like, oh, I won't do this because the wife will tell me off, and I'm like,
Right.
oh, hold on, that's actually emotional abuse. You shouldn't be feeling like the wife is in control of you. So I have something called the toilet seat theory, which is we get a lot of people saying, oh, he's left the toilet seat up again. And I'm like, right, you're both in that house, you both live together, you haven't left the toilet seat up for him. Do you know what I
Hmm.
mean? So
Right.
I'm probably quite a different thinker to many people in terms of the role of men in this country and how challenging it must be for men to
Yes.
have to navigate the standards of what are we supposed to be now. We're not even allowed to hold the door open for you because it's considered sexist, and
Oh
what
yeah.
is chivalry and how can I be a provider when that's not allowed anymore? What's my role? um,
Woo, man.
yeah, so that's still very much an issue here, which is something I will speak quite loudly about because I'm very passionate about it, and not enough people are aware of that because we've taken feminism to feminangry. There's so much bitterness and hate and anger that it's just not helping anybody, and it's just created this toxic environment between men and women that is just makes me upset because it's not how we're going to work things through. So I guess
Correct.
that's kind of cultural, maybe as well.
No, I would agree, man. You hit so many different topics. I'm gonna try my best to hit them because you brought up a lot there. But number one, I appreciate the honesty because I think for a lot of men, particularly the men that I talk to as well, it is a little more of a hostile environment to even if I talked about it just from a dating sense, trying
Mm,
to approach women. It's very different. And it's not, to be clear, I don't think it's a question of, if just in case somebody wanted to say this, like, should women be respected? Should women have, equal rights and things like that? I don't think that
mhm.
that's even a debate. I think to me, it would be very clear that we believe
Yeah,
that that should be the case.
yeah.
But it's the treatment now. And as you said, it's very difficult to navigate because, in some sense, a lot of men, in my experience, and I will include myself in this, we are brought up to be very traditional. And what I mean by traditional is being that provider role, that emotional stability of, you might not see a lot of my emotions, but you can come to me when you're going through difficult times. I'm going to try to make sure that we keep this boat steady, so to speak.
Hmm.
But then at the same time, we are encouraged in some cases to be more vulnerable, to be more open. But then when we do, we don't always get received well.
Yeah,
So then it then goes back to a lot of the training that we get throughout our lives to then bottle it all back up and keep it all inside.
yeah,
To your example about the gentleman who may want to talk about sexual preferences or what he's into, but is too afraid,
yeah,
which speaks volumes about his level of comfortability in his relationship if he can't say that to his wife or
yeah,
his partner. So these are very complicated issues, right? Because the big one to me you hit on was gender roles.
yeah.
And I talk about that one a lot because that one is the one that I don't know if will ever fully change in my lifetime, but I'm
Mm,
really trying to do my part to try to be of service to it. Because
yeah.
on one hand, just to lay out my sort of platform on that, I agree with us being traditional as men in terms of being those providers, because I think that there's certain things that we are built to do that is
Hmm.
very different to ask a woman to do.
Yeah,
Not because a woman can't do it, to be clear, but it's about what helps us function in the most optimal way. So for those of us that want to have a stable home environment with a wife and maybe children, or a husband and children for the other side, we want to create that environment where we are able to collaboratively work together. What I would say being interdependent. So a
yeah.
lot of us talk about being independent.
Hmm.
Well, to me, being interdependent is the choice that I know I can do it on my own, but I choose to rely on you for certain things. I
Yes.
choose to rely on you for certain things. So it's not a question of like, oh, I don't need you, or we
Yeah,
don't need to do this together. Of course, that's already being known. You were doing it on your own before that we met. It's that I know that life is easier. And that to me is a very important truth that we all need to remember. Life is very hard, and it's even harder when you got to do it by yourself.
yeah.
It's not to say you need to throw yourself into a relationship just to not be alone. That's not what we're saying. But it is more advantageous for us, particularly from an emotional standpoint, to have that level of stability in one's home and to be able to build relationships with people that you genuinely care about.
Yeah.
So that's one big thing, right? So that's the traditional sense. But on the flip side, because I'm a father as well, I believe much more that we have to step our game up and truly, as men, learn to be vulnerable, truly be able to communicate and be transparent about the different experiences that we have and being honest with ourselves. I will acknowledge, though, the difficulty with doing that is a lot of our societies don't really promote that.
Yeah.
A lot of people I've noticed will give us sort of lip service and talk about it would be great if men would be more open and talk about these things. But when the situation presents, we don't always get received well. So then we internalize that a lot of times and say, okay, then I guess I should just go back to not saying anything. But then we manifest a lot of those things in very destructive ways. Maybe we binge drink. Maybe we get into a lot of fights. Maybe I'm in and out of jail. Maybe I'm emotionally abusive or neglectful to my wife, my children, my husband, whoever. It can manifest in all these ways because I'm pushing and compressing everything down instead of letting it out, which I know you know better because you've gone through therapy so many times. So you understand the importance and value of doing that. So to me, that's the balance that we have to strike as men. It's okay for us to be those traditional men in that sense of being the providers because we are largely built to do that. But we would benefit, our children would benefit, our women would benefit if we also learn to lean into being more open. But we need support from everybody, including our mothers, our fathers, our family, our friends, our teachers, everybody in society, to also promote that, not scold us, not make fun of us, not belittle us, not minimize how we're feeling. But that's a lot of what we get. So I work really, really hard as a person in the field who's trying to promote more of us to do this, who had to deal with the struggles of not ever feeling safe to talk about it, to try to make it easier for those that are coming after. So I will get off my soapbox, but that's a very big thing for me. But I'm very grateful that you said that because I don't hear that a lot. And this is not an attack on women. I hope that resonates with somebody, that you can appreciate that it is very difficult for us in these times to try to evolve, so to speak, into these ways that we want to be.